Has this ever happened to you? You stand on the precipice of a decision, an unseen crossroads where the path of yearning for external validation diverges sharply. From the solitary ascent into your own sovereign self, it is here, at this vital juncture, that the alchemist's bride begins a journey. Her story is not one of seeking a man, but of forging an inner world so profound, so utterly unyielding to external forces, that it becomes, paradoxically, the very thing a man finds himself. Unable to resist, unable to forget, utterly obsessed with, this isn't about manipulation. It's about the deep, almost terrifying power that emanates from a woman who has dared to delve into the forbidden chambers of her own psyche. The male psyche, in its primal yearning, often projects an idealized image onto the feminine. It is an ancient dance, the search for the anima, the unconscious feminine principle within every man. Yet, most women unconsciously perhaps cater to these projections, molding themselves into reflections of masculine desire. They become the echo rather than the original sound. But the alchemist's bride, she shatters these mirrors. She understands that her true power lies not in being seen through his eyes, but in the profound, often uncomfortable act of seeing herself unvarnished. Through the crucible of her own self-discovery, consider the concept of shadow work, a cornerstone of Jungian psychology for the alchemist's bride. This isn't a mere intellectual exercise, it's a visceral descent into the unacknowledged aspects of her being, the rage, the sorrow, the untamed instincts, the parts deemed unacceptable by societal norms and early conditioning. While others flee from their darkness, she embraces it, integrates it, transforming what was once fragmented into a cohesive whole. This fearless confrontation of her own personal underworld creates an immense magnetic field around her. There is an authenticity, a groundedness that no performative charm can ever replicate. A man, often unconsciously, senses this integration. It speaks to the nascent urge within him to confront his own fragmented self, to reclaim his own announced shadow. He is drawn to the woman who has navigated her own depths, for she holds the promise of a guide, a mirror, or perhaps even a catalyst for his own necessary descent. This deep inner work cultivates a formidable detachment from external validation. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, spoke of the inner citadel, impregnable to the slings and arrows of fortune. The alchemist's bride builds such a citadel within herself. Her self-worth is not a fragile thing, dependent on a man's attention, his approval, or his presence. It is forged in the fires of self-acceptance, refined through the arduous process of individuation. When a woman is truly self-contained, her joy and peace are not contingent on another. This profound self-possession is unsettling to the male ego, accustomed as it often is to being the center of a woman's emotional universe. It creates a vacuum, a space where his usual tactics of pursuit and conquest prove utterly ineffective. This emotional unavailability, not as a game, but as an authentic state of being, becomes a powerful, almost agonizing mystery. He cannot solve her with compliments or grand gestures, for her validation comes from an infinitely deeper wellspring. Her inner world is not a stage for his performance, but a sacred grove where she tends to her own soul. This cultivation of a rich inner life through creativity, introspection, spiritual practice, or simply the quiet contemplation of her own being, creates an energetic resonance that is profoundly attractive. It's the difference between a shallow pool reflecting transient images and a deep, still lake holding ancient secrets. He senses that there is more to her than meets the eye, that her spirit holds galaxies yet to be explored. This sense of vastness, of an unending horizon within her, ignites a primal curiosity within him, a desire to know, to understand, to merge with a mystery that seems to hold the very essence of life itself. The ego, in its pursuit of dominion, finds itself disarmed, rendered impotent by the sheer, unassailable sovereignty of her spirit. This inner landscape, so meticulously cultivated, evokes a potent sense of emotional mystery that casts a powerful spell. The alchemist's bride does not over-explain, does not anxiously fill silences, nor does she offer herself up for immediate consumption. Her emotional responses are not always immediately decipherable. Her intentions not always transparently laid bare for the male gaze. This isn't about playing games. It's the natural byproduct of a woman whose emotional core is deeply connected to her authentic self rather than being a performance for another. This subtle withholding, this quiet self-possession creates an irresistible gravitational pull. The male ego, designed to solve problems and master environments, finds itself confronted by a beautiful enigma. He cannot fix her, he cannot figure her out easily, and this very resistance to his conventional approaches fuels a deeper fascination. Consider the Stoic principle of apatheia not as apathy, but as freedom from disturbing emotions, a state of tranquil objectivity. The Alchemist's bride embodies this not through coldness, but through a profound emotional resilience. Her joy is vibrant, her sorrow acknowledged, but neither dictates her entire being. She possesses an inner calm, a centeredness that is deeply attractive in a world rife with emotional turbulence. This emotional stability, born from genuine self-mastery, makes her a rare and precious anchor. A man, consciously or unconsciously, seeks refuge from his own inner storms, and in her tranquil presence, he finds a promise of peace he rarely encounters elsewhere. This doesn't mean she is without passion or fire. On the contrary, her passion is precisely because it is self-generated, not externally ignited, and therefore more potent, more enduring. This self-mastery often manifests as an embrace of silence. In a world saturated with noise, with constant chatter, and the desperate need to be heard, the woman who is comfortable in her own silence becomes a profound statement. Her silence is not empty, it is pregnant with unspoken understanding, with inner wisdom, with a quiet strength that resonates more deeply than any torrent of words. When she does speak, her words carry weight, for they emerge from a place of deep reflection, not reactive impulse. A man, particularly one attuned to the subtle currents of the unconscious, finds himself leaning in, yearning to understand the vast, unspoken narratives held within her quietude. Her silence can become a powerful mirror, reflecting back his own internal noise, his own anxieties, compelling him to confront them. It is in this void of expectation, this lack of constant demand for his attention or validation, that his own genuine desire for connection, for true communion, begins to stir. The concept of attraction here transcends superficial desire. It delves into the realm of the unconscious, a magnetic pull between two souls seeking wholeness. When a woman embarks on her journey of individuation, she becomes more fully herself, integrating both her light and her shadow. This authenticity is the true aphrodisiac. She isn't trying to be appealing, she simply is. This effortless magnetism is rooted in the very core of her being. The male unconscious, recognizing this profound integrity, signals a deep, almost instinctual pull. It's an attraction that bypasses the superficial filters of the ego and speaks directly to the soul. You may observe how men, even those typically confident and self-assured, can become almost clumsy, subtly deferential, or deeply contemplative in the presence of such a woman. Her very presence evokes a different order of being. Her journey is one of spiritual femininity, an embracing of the wisdom inherent in the archetypal feminine intuition, compassion, creativity, nurturing of self and soul. This is not about being soft or passive, but about wielding immense power through connection to higher truths and inner guidance. This spiritual depth is what truly sets her apart. It is a profound, almost mystical aura that draws a man in, not just to her body, but to her very essence, to the potential for transformation and spiritual growth he senses in her orbit. He becomes aware, perhaps for the first time, of dimensions within himself that her presence awakens. This journey into her inner world also necessitates a confrontation with ego, not necessarily his, but her own. The alchemist's bride understands that her ego, while a necessary component of her personality, must serve her higher self, not dominate it. She becomes adept at recognizing egoic desires, the need for validation, for control, for superficial admiration, and gently guiding herself back to a place of inner truth. This self-awareness radiates outward. When a man encounters A woman who is not driven by these common egoic impulses, he finds himself disarmed. His usual strategies, designed to appeal to ego, fall flat. He might attempt to impress, to charm, to exert subtle influence, only to find that she is unswayed by such external machinations. This lack of response to his typical playbook can be profoundly frustrating, yet simultaneously deeply intriguing, even captivating. It forces him to look beyond the superficial, to engage with her on a different, more profound level, or to retreat, acknowledging his own limitations. The absence of obsession on her part, the anxious clinging, the constant need for reassurance. The frantic pursuit of his attention is precisely what ignites it within him. This is a cruel paradox, yet a fundamental truth of human attraction. Her inner world is so rich, so fulfilling, that she does not need him to complete her. Her happiness is self-generated. This self-sufficiency, often mistaken for indifference, is in fact a profound act of self-love and emotional maturity. He finds himself in the unfamiliar territory of pursuing a woman who doesn't seem to need pursuing. This challenges his preconceived notions of relationship dynamics, often forged in environments where female validation is readily available. He is forced to contend with the unsettling reality that she is utterly content in her own company, that her life is vibrant and complete without his immediate inclusion. This dynamic frequently triggers a man's shadow work in unexpected ways. Her quiet strength, her unshakable self-worth, can illuminate his own unconscious insecurities, his innate fears of inadequacy or rejection. He might find himself confronting patterns of behavior he previously ignored, realizing that his usual charming facade or assertive posturing doesn't penetrate her authentic core. Her mere presence can act as a catalyst, forcing him to look inward, to acknowledge his own projections and the unhealed wounds that fuel them. This process, while often uncomfortable, is ultimately transformative. He may begin to see her not just as an object of desire, but as a mirror reflecting his own need for growth. The alchemist's bride also embodies a powerful kind of feminine power that is distinct from conventional displays of dominance. It is the power of creation, of intuition, of nurturing, of holding space. It is a power that doesn't seek to control, but to influence, to inspire, to bring forth. This power is deeply rooted in her connection to her own body, her own emotional landscape, and her own spiritual insights. She trusts her gut. She listens to the subtle whispers of her inner voice, and she moves through the world with a knowing that comes from within. This grounded, intuitive power is profoundly unsettling and alluring to a man, especially in an era that often prizes overt, aggressive displays of strength. He senses a wisdom in her that transcends logic, a primal force that connects her to something ancient and eternal. You will observe that her very being becomes a curiosity hook, not a manufactured one, but an organic magnetism that arises from her genuine pursuit of an examined life. There is a sense of something unfinished, an untold story, a vastness within her that draws him in. He begins to ask questions, to seek understanding, not just of her, but of the very nature of attraction itself. Her essence provokes not just desire, but also a deeper philosophical inquiry into the nature of relationships and the human condition. This internal mastery also addresses the deep-seated male fear of regret. When a man encounters a woman who is genuinely content within herself, who radiates a sense of peace that is not dependent on his presence, a powerful shift occurs. He begins to sense the true cost of losing such a woman. It's not about losing an object of affection, but about losing access to a unique and deeply enriching experience. The regret isn't merely about her physical absence, but the absence of the profound energy she emanates, the subtle challenge she presents to his complacency, the mirror she holds to his own potential. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, spoke of living a life without regret, focusing on what is within one's control. The alchemist's bride embodies this philosophy, and her self-sufficiency illuminates the potential for deep, lasting regret in a man who fails to recognize or honor her inherent worth. Her embodiment of spiritual femininity often involves a profound connection to her own intuition, a wisdom that transcends rational thought. This deep knowing allows her to navigate the complexities of life with a quiet confidence that is utterly captivating. She isn't swayed by external opinions or superficial trends. Her compass is always pointing inward. This intuitive strength is deeply alluring to the male psyche, which often operates on logic and analysis. He finds himself drawn to her ability to perceive beyond the obvious, to understand unspoken truths, and to possess a foresight that seems almost mystical. This isn't about being irrational. It's about accessing a different kind of intelligence, one that speaks directly to the soul. The journey of the alchemist's bride is not without its trials, and it is in navigating these trials with grace and resilience that her magnetism becomes even more pronounced. Trauma, when unaddressed, can leave deep scars that manifest as insecurity, neediness, or emotional volatility. However, the woman who is actively engaged in her own healing, who has done the arduous work of processing her past wounds, emerges with a profound sense of self-compassion and strength. Her empathy for herself extends outwards, allowing her to connect with others on a deeper, more authentic level. This capacity for deep connection, born from her own self-healing, is profoundly attractive. A man senses that she is not easily broken, that she possesses an inner fortitude forged in fire, making her a beacon of strength and resilience. Her self-worth, a concept often discussed but rarely fully embodied, is the bedrock of her irresistible allure. It is not an intellectual concept, but a deeply felt reality. Cultivated through consistent self-reverence, she sets boundaries not out of anger, but out of respect for her own energy and well-being. She says no unapologetically when something doesn't align with her truth. This unwavering commitment to her own well-being communicates a profound message. She values herself above all else. This isn't narcissism, it's self-preservation and self-love. For a man, witnessing this level of self-respect is a powerful lesson. It teaches him how to treat her, for she implicitly demands the same level of respect she affords herself. He realizes that to truly engage with her, he must elevate his own standards of conduct and emotional maturity. This self-worth naturally leads to a form of detachment that is profoundly effective, not the cold, calculated detachment of manipulation, but the warm, expansive detachment of a woman who knows her own fullness. She isn't waiting for a man to complete her narrative. She is busy writing her own epic. This absence of energetic clinging creates a space that paradoxically pulls him closer. He finds himself constantly wondering about her thoughts, her feelings, her world, precisely because she isn't telegraphing them for his consumption. This emotional space fosters curiosity, and curiosity, when sustained, transmutes into a potent form of obsession. He becomes caught in the delightful mystery of her independent existence. This phenomenon is less about traditional attraction and more about the deep, unconscious recognition of a truly individuated being. The alchemist's bride, in her relentless pursuit of self-knowledge and integration, becomes a living embodiment of the journey towards wholeness. This journey, which is the ultimate quest of the human spirit, resonates deeply within the male unconscious. He is drawn to her not just for what she can offer him, but for what she represents, the potential for his own growth, his own liberation, his own journey back to himself. Her inner world becomes his ultimate obsession because it offers him a glimpse into the sacred territory of his own unfulfilled potential. The most profound aspect of this powerful alchemy is the transcendence of regret, not just his, but implicitly hers. The alchemist's bride, having meticulously built an inner life so complete, so rich, rarely experiences the gnawing pangs of what if. She operates from a place of radical self-acceptance and profound trust in her own journey. This inner peace is a powerful antidote to the societal pressures that often lead women to compromise their desires for external approval. When a man witnesses a woman who lives so authentically, so devoid of the emotional baggage of unfulfilled longing, it forces him to confront his own regrets, his own compromises. Her presence becomes a silent, yet potent question mark against his own life choices. He might find himself pondering the opportunities missed, the authentic connections sidestepped, all in the pursuit of something less meaningful. Her ability To embody this freedom from regret stems from a deep understanding of her self-worth. This isn't a superficial affirmation, but a lived reality, woven into the fabric of her being through years of introspection and intentional living. She understands that her value is intrinsic, not derived from a man's attention, a relationship, status, or societal benchmarks. This unwavering internal compass allows her to navigate the complexities of dating and relationships with a quiet confidence that is utterly disarming. When she walks away, it is not out of malice or manipulation, but out of a genuine recognition that something does not align with her truth. This calm, resolute detachment is often what sparks a man's deepest obsession, for he is confronted with a woman who truly values herself, and thus cannot be bought or won by conventional means. This inner sovereignty often manifests as a deep embrace of silence, not as a tactic, but as a natural state of being. She is not compelled to fill every conversational void, nor does she anxiously seek reassurance through constant communication. Her silence is not empty. It is replete with meaning, with observation, with her own internal world humming with activity. This comfort in her own quietude creates a powerful vacuum that men often feel compelled to fill. They find themselves leaning in, listening more intently, perhaps even talking more than usual, hoping to draw her out, to understand the depths they sense within her unspoken thoughts. This quiet power is deeply intriguing, for it hints at wisdom and self-possession that is increasingly rare in a noisy world. The attraction she generates transcends the physical. It is a resonance of souls. It is rooted in the recognition of a woman who is actively engaged in her own individuation, the junction process of becoming whole, integrated, and uniquely oneself. This journey involves confronting the shadow, embracing all aspects of the self, and aligning with one's authentic purpose. When a woman embarks on this profound inner quest, she radiates an energy that is fundamentally different. It is an energy of wholeness, of integrity, of quiet power. A man's unconscious, recognizing this profound journey, is drawn to it with an almost primal force. He senses that she holds the key not just to romantic love, but to a deeper form of connection that can facilitate his own growth and transformation. Her capacity for spiritual femininity is not about adherence to any particular dogma, but about an intuitive connection to the deeper currents of life, a reverence for cycles, emotions, and the unseen. She possesses a wisdom that goes beyond logic, a nurturing spirit that extends to her own soul and, when appropriate, to others. This spiritual depth lends her an almost ethereal quality, a luminosity that draws men in not just to her physical presence but to the very essence of her being. She becomes a muse, a guide, a silent beckoning towards a more profound existence. Ultimately, her inner world becomes a man's ultimate obsession, because it offers him a mirror, challenging, often uncomfortable, but ultimately liberating mirror to his own unconscious. He sees in her the integrated shadow he needs to confront, the unexpressed emotions he needs to feel, the untapped potential he needs to unlock. She doesn't complete him, but rather inspires him to complete himself. She represents the potent, transformative power of the authentic feminine, a power that invites him into a deeper relationship, not just with her, but with himself. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.